Zoom to redirect. There it is. And
Hey,
there we go. And darn, I thought I changed that, but I didn't. Okay. Hang on. Okay. We are up and live. That's awesome. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
We're here. Hi, everyone. We're here today with Eric Mortimer, and Eric and I have known each other for, I don't know, I'm going to say 10 years. It's been 10 years?
Probably about 12.
Okay. Yeah. So a while. Through all kinds of stuff. And this last year has been a year when actually I hardly saw you at all this last year. I don't know that, well, I haven't seen anybody yet. Unless it's been online, but, and the folks I have seen, I'm not going to tell you about, but it's been a heck of a year, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's one for the books for sure.
One for the books.
Just waiting for the time when we look back at it and laugh.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have to say that I think it's probably been the best year of my life, but that's, in many ways it's it forced me to be quiet,
right?
To go inside. It's been amazing. And we were just talking briefly before Eric and I came on online here that one of the things we thought we'd talk about is a bit about how the whole thing has set spiritually, but and then you said something about having had a real personal spiritual experience one time, and that I was there or somewhere in the vicinity. And tell us about that.
Yeah,
it's a good place to start as any.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think I've actually ever talked to you about it, but it's been something that's affected me for years. Well, it's going on 10 years, that experience. So what originally happened was I was really into out of body and doing the spiritual and enlightenment thing. And I actually went in a ceremony, and I had this ceremony, and it was a really powerful experience, and I actually got to be part of the void is the word I use for it, where I was one with everything, and I was nothing, and I felt joy, I felt bliss, and it was just amazing. It was this incredible feeling, and it was interesting because very quickly I actually realized that I wouldn't want to be in this space forever, that I wouldn't want to be in eternal joy and eternal bliss and without a body. And I understood, they talk about how, how angels want to come down to be on this plane to experience what it's like to be human. And I started having those kind of realizations, knowing what a gift it is just to be able to feel something, be able to push something, to move something, but also the full emotions. I really got that, yes, it's great to experience bliss and all that, but I also understood that the full gamut of emotions is what we're here for. And shortly after that ceremony, I ended up breaking up with a girlfriend that I had at the time, and got to put that experience to the test, and it actually ended up at a party at your place. Your condo on 18th there. That's
yes, I remember
lots of parties and gatherings, and she managed to finagle her way in there as well, accidentally, knowing that I would be there. She's looking for opportunities to sort of run into me while we're broken up.
Yes,
but when I saw her, I was still very attached to her, and you looked at me, you said, are you okay? And I was actually starting to cry. And we went upstairs to your room, And you said, "What's going on?" And I actually just started bawling my eyes out, and I was crying. And you said, "Wow, look at you! I wish I could do that." And it just came even more. Like you gave me the space to do it. You didn't interfere. You didn't try to hug me to try and make me feel better or anything. You were just there, and I was bawling my eyes out. But at the same time, it was like I was observing myself, and I was, yeah, go for it. This is fucking awesome. This is what you're here for. And I really felt the pain. I felt the grief, the love in my heart, and to a whole new level. And so in one way, it was one of the most painful things, and at the same time, I was feeling bliss just because I was feeling at such a deep level. So yeah, so
Wow.
you were actually there for that.
There was just you and I.
It was just you and I. Yeah, everybody else was downstairs. We had some space and we had some time, and that moment stayed with me, and it actually really got and it's affecting me even now in this moment, and with what's going on with COVID, because I really understand that it's a gift. You know, some things are hard. There's some people that are in grief and are in sorrow, and I have some down days as well, and just understanding that even those are gifts. So it just enables gratitude to come out when it wouldn't have normally historically.
Um, so this last year, I mean, wow, it's interesting. That means I knew you before you met your wife.
Um, right around the same, well, we broke up, and then
Yeah.
we actually ended up getting back together. So that was the woman who later became my wife. So we were broken up for about 6 months. We ended up
Oh,
getting back.
okay.
We got back together. We realized that was is the best thing that happened for us was breaking up, and we got to really understand how much we cared about each other, and we got back together, and then we went to India together and trekked around India for a month, and I actually proposed under the Bodhi tree, and it would be 10 years ago, almost a couple of weeks ago. So on January 1st, 2011, so it was actually 11/11, I proposed under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, India, and then we got married on 11/11/11, so November 11th, 2011.
Wow. You're very romantic.
Yeah, we actually met on November 11th, so there's multiple things that fell in place. It
Wow.
wasn't just doing the cool thing to fall on 11/11/11.
Hmm. So you've been a kind of a spiritual student for a long time. Like we have, uh, you've read all Hawkins stuff over the years, and haven't you read some of the
Yeah, I've read a bunch of Hawkins stuff. It's kind of funny, kid. I actually started fairly early, and um, first formal training was probably transcendental meditation. When I was 16, I tried to drag my dad to learn transcendental meditation because he was an air traffic controller, one of the most stressful jobs, and
Yeah.
I saw some of the science behind transcendental meditation, how it relieves
What town
stress,
were
and
you in? In Calgary?
that was in Ottawa. Yeah,
In Ottawa?
yeah.
And you got connected with the TM community in
Yeah, yeah, and
okay.
I tried to, but it was to try and help my dad. It wasn't for me originally, and he didn't do it, but I ended up doing it. So that was
Uh-huh.
some of the first formal training. But I was kind of a strange kid.
Join the club.
Yeah.
um, Somebody was asking me the other day, when did it start for me? And
Mhm.
and I think it was, even before my teens.
Mhm.
I remember um, um, with a flashlight under the blankets
Right.
as a kid, reading the New Testament
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
as I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on here.
Mhm.
And there weren't many spiritual books around. And,
Yeah.
and you know,
Mhm.
and and the New Testament is got a good storyline. And
Mhm.
I was deep into it, um, and had got quite exposed to the whole Christian um, philosophy or the story of Christianity,
Mhm.
but so you were like that as well, wondering what's going on here, or
Yeah. Yeah. I would actually, as a probably 7 or 8, asking my mom to actually go to church. We didn't really go to church. My parents had it more forced on them when they were younger, so they didn't do it that much.
Yes.
Particularly my dad, he was in a boarding school in England and had different things kind of forced on him, so it was pushed away. But so I had some curiosity. I used to actually go ask to, can we go for Easter to church or for Christmas or different things to explore. At that time, it was the only thing knew about. I didn't know about the other options, but I had
No.
different. Actually, it's kind of funny. My mom still talks about it. I was a funny kid and had different abilities as a kid. I used to freak her out with knowing who was on the phone when they called. This was before call display. This is back in times when there was party lines and stuff. And I knew what weather was going to be like and all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah. So there wasn't a lot of conditioning in the road, and you were open. It sounds like
Mm,
it's been my experience that a lot of what's happened since we were little guys, the conditioning, the training,
hmm
has um, been in the road of our natural abilities sometimes, or our natural gifts, or
Yeah.
our natural selves, our essential selves, and
hmm
it seems like the last 20 some years, but maybe even longer, for me, has been identifying and letting go of some of that stuff, that the conditioned beliefs,
hmm
and yet still being functional.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like we are here, and there are things that are happening around us, and I just finished listening to Papa G, who was Muji's teacher.
hmm
Today I went for a walk and had an hour of Papa G, and he basically says that it's all thought. There's nothing here. It
hmm
just you know nothing, and he breaks it down to totally to that it's all thought, that there isn't anything, and which is I can drop into that space of nothingness,
hmm
but I I don't I find it kind of, I come out of it to be in the world. You know what I mean? It's like
hmm
it isn't so easy to just be there
Yeah.
um, in that quiet space and
hmm
and do this. you
Yeah.
know,
There's a big and for sure, and that's kind of where I came from. I was having a lot of those, um, reaching for those experiences, and then when actually attaining those experiences and realizing that this is a place to be. So it's a gift to be here. So we're here for a reason. We've got work to do. So just sitting in that bliss and nothingness, I think is a wasted opportunity.
well, yes, it can be.
hmm
Um, what's come up for me this last year was some moments of complete surrender, and um, which doesn't a realization actually that my conditioning wasn't enhancing my experience, that some of my conditioning as a, from my childhood, and was fear based, and you're not good enough based,
Yeah.
and all of those stories that weren't enhancing my experience, and you would know as well as anyone how much work many of us have done to try to change the story.
Mhm.
And I realized in the last year, actually it hit me big when I was with Thibodeau, with Mr. Thibodeau, doing
Mhm.
the enlightenment intensive, and
Right.
it was like, oh my gosh, when when the story all fell apart, and I realized that I was still here without the story, and then all so much fell into place, all the teachings from all the years, the teachers I was with, and all, I mean, the traveling I did to find it all came into focus. It was like, oh, so my full potential is in the moment.
Mhm.
and that when I'm here, and I recognize the difference between being in my story and being in the moment, and I basically choose to be here. I'm actually more effective if effectiveness is my desire, when I'm not coming from fear-based or from not good enough, so realizing that and just letting go over and over again. Hawkins in his book Letting Go, basically said, you keep letting go, what happens is we become, we move into our natural selves. It isn't like that we create something, we just become who we really are.
Yeah.
And
Otherwise, you're just doing a photocopy every day.
yeah.
It's not too exciting. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Get out
but
the
it's
3D printer.
yeah, and maybe I'm just, was just really slow. Maybe a lot of people have got it, but it seems like that the illusion is very deceptive. It's very, it holds on, and the story is literally imprinted
Hmm.
in seems like cellular, and so I and the more I'm dropping into it,
Mm-hmm.
the more I realize how diligent it is to try to keep me in the old story. It's
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. And I think some of it is cellular too. Like it does get in. We are programmed, and that's why it's so important to have movement and different things too. So much is trapped in our bodies, and people have massages and they find themselves in tears, or they do different body movement things, and it releases the emotions. So even if we release it up here, there's still like the mind is everything, right? There's the brain, and then there's the mind, which is much larger. And I think who we are, our collective too, right? We're connected to others too. So sometimes it's not just ours. And
Well, and that's another piece of it, is to for me anyway, if living consciously
mhm.
is a desire, or an awareness not to hold other people in an old place,
Yeah.
because then I'm part of the collective,
Hmm.
because I met somebody, or I heard something about somebody, or I
Hmm.
think I know them,
Right.
and when I don't know them, you
Right.
know, and
And
I
the
can
same
let
thing,
go.
people that think they know you are trying to put you back into the pattern too, trying to get you
Yes,
back in your groove. Yeah.
yeah, and we do that, So I was talking to somebody when I was on my walk just now, and it was somebody that I'm, getting to spend a little bit time with lately, and well enough to be able to say, um, thank you for calling. I hope you don't mind that I really don't have much to say.
Yeah.
and, and she said, well, okay. I said, I do enjoy you calling and we can keep talking, but I don't have, you know, there wasn't much, other than just kind of making small talk,
Sure. Yeah.
and there's less and less.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if the only thing you have in common is the past, and just pulling that up. And
Well, yes, and that's what happens, and or the people that we have in common.
Mhm.
So we're either talking about the past or people.
Mhm.
And I remember my friend Paul Lowe. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm going to talk about people for a moment. Who was my teacher for many, many years,
Yeah.
and he was, he remarked this many, many times, that that he wasn't much fun at parties
Yeah.
because there was nothing to say, and
Yeah.
and and yet as a teacher, when he was at the front of the room and we would be in group, was in group with him, we would laugh. He was so funny, and he used humor to crack us open,
Yeah.
and many times I've been on the hot seat, and had, been part of his humor, uh,
Yeah.
maybe not so willingly.
Providing the fodder for his jokes.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, and
That was generous of you.
yeah, but One of the things that he used to do with me, because I would be in group and I'd be thinking about what the question I was going to ask her, and I would have this whole thing cooked up in my mind, and I'd have my hand up, and he would say, David, and um, and it was whatever was coming out it was always just a story. It was ego. It was, and he would look at me, and then he would next. And he just leave me there. And we knew each other well enough that I knew he didn't need to say anything else, and but it was
Hmm.
hard,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
know that there was nothing to say.
Mm.
And
And there's so many egos around those circles too. I found quite often but it was a spiritual ego. Like I'm so spiritual and trying to prove how spiritual I
yes,
was. Yeah.
I might even have been
To impress
doing,
somebody or impress a woman or
yeah, yeah. Did you get to go to any of Paul's groups?
I didn't know. I was thinking about you the other day. There's a Osho documentary on Netflix, and I saw a glimpse of him on there. I don't know if he shows up anymore. So he was
Um,
involved with Osho too, wasn't
he was with Osho for 14 years.
he? Hmm.
He was Tirtha was his name, and he was Osho's kind of
Hmm.
lead
Hmm.
facilitator, or for a long time. He was in the thick of it for a long time, and
Hmm.
was probably the clearest fella I ever spent time with. I had no idea. I just knew that being he had this energy of love
Hmm.
that was amazing. And I was quite young, and not very aware, I guess, and put him on a bit of a pedestal,
Yeah.
and I think I painted him with the father brush,
Hmm.
and did a lot of those things, but that was all part of the, none of it was, it was all needed,
Yeah.
and um, I certainly, he's still alive. He's 87
Hmm.
now, and um, kind of living very quietly in
Hmm.
Australia.
Yeah. He looks
Yeah.
the same.
Pardon me.
He looks the same almost.
Um, did you see a video of him, or
I
oh,
saw some pictures. I'm not sure how old it was, but he looks fairly similar.
yes, I think the last videos he did were about 5 or 6 years ago. Somebody went down and got him to sit for some, and do some talks, and yeah, but I think he's just living there quite quietly,
Hmm.
you know. And it's funny. I didn't know that thought we were going to talk about current events, but
Oh, we're getting trapped in the history thing. So.
well, one of the things I love about Hawkins
Hmm.
uh, is Hawkins' scale, his vibrational scale, and um, when he talks about the possibility of vibrating, say it unconditional love, and now we've all experienced a lot of places on that scale, right? We've
Yep.
but he talks about as we move up the scale through doing the work, through I think that, like Paul used to say about awakening, he used to say, well, you can't find it by looking for it, but you
Hmm.
won't find it if you don't look for
Yeah.
it. And um, so my anyway, when I think about Paul, I think of a man who, I believe vibrated, in the 5 or 600s, and helped to lift a lot of people on the planet,
Yeah.
and like Hawkins did, and I think Muji is today,
There's
and
that other saying that it's a matter of luck if you find enlightenment or awakening, but doing practices makes you prone to luck.
more lucky, yeah.
Yeah.
No guarantee, but
Yeah. You
yes,
gotta show up at least. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So what have you been doing this year? Like, tell us about, the last 9 months. How have you been making out, and is there, if people are watching, You have a lot of folks that look to you as, over your years, you've been always at kind of the front of the room, sharing with people. And let's use this for a moment to, if you want to talk about the last year or what you see
Sure.
coming up or advice for people or.
Yeah, well, it's another example of it. The positives from COVID when it hit. I've been a certified high performance coach for 5 years. I've only been doing it by request in the past with a small group of people. But when COVID hit, I decided it was an opportunity to amp it up and to diversify and do more online. So
Yes.
I opened up and started doing more of the online coaching with a certified high performance and helping more people with that step up their lives. And I've been doing more and more of that. So I still am doing the real estate, but I'm also helping. It's primarily entrepreneurs, just because they have the most control over their time and their income. But
Yes.
I've also helped people that have been unemployed, land contracts and stuff too by going through the high performance program. So that's been a blessing for it, because it was an extra nudge, an extra push for me to step up the high performance coaching. And
But you are still doing some real estate?
yeah, I'm still doing real estate, and I'm coaching agents and entrepreneurs as well. And I'm launching a group program, and that'll be starting next week. I was just doing one-on-ones, but I've only got so much capacity, so I've actually added some group coaching now as well. So
Nice. Well, good
mhm.
for you.
Yeah.
That's, and so, um, what's the common thing that's, I mean, is anything changed in the coaching, or are you finding people are really caught in this, what's happening around us right now, and and you're dealing with real, like, depression, or just folks trying to figure out how to get on track, or.
It seems like the extreme is how we talk about the middle class almost disappearing,
Mhm.
in terms of, well, like there's the ultra wealthy, and then there's the poor, and there isn't that much in between. It seems that way almost with um, people's mindsets. There are people that are down here, and there's people that are doing really well. Like and the more people hang out with the people in those groups, I think it compounds too. If they're buying the story that this is terrible, and all they see watches the news, and that things are depressing, then that's what they fall into. But if you're dealing with groups, like I'm dealing with a number of people that are having record years, that have compounded their wealth and their business. So it opens up the possibilities, right?
Sure. A lot of people
So
have done really well in the stock market this year, or the
yeah, the
last.
stock market and the businesses and all kinds of things, and it doesn't always make sense
No.
either. Like what you think would be doing well isn't, and vice versa.
Yes. So are you still involved with your men's group?
Not as heavily right now. I'm still a member of Mentor, Discover, Inspire, but I've stepped away from my team. And with the high performance coaching, I'm actually putting the focus on there, and I'm essentially building teams as part of my business.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's part of it. So I can focus on it. And it's one of the realizations is that there's only so much energy you can get out of volunteers too. So if you can do something and get an income from the time, you can give more to the community.
Yeah, yeah. More to the endeavor for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I had just, what do you think is going to happen this year? What are you going to do 2021? What, got any, forecasts? Um, what's your crystal ball say about the next 10 months, 12 months?
Yeah, it's a tough one because it's not making a lot of sense right now. Like the stock market and real estate and different things. I'm not sure they should be climbing the way they are because the fundamentals aren't really there. It seems like a shell game. It's
So
the
real estate in
yeah.
Calgary hasn't taken a beating?
Real estate in Calgary, the average is -1 over the past year, and a big part of that was because of the beginning, and we've had uh, it's been soft for a few years, and the first quarter was soft because of oil, and then COVID hit and there were shutdowns. It was soft, but after things started to open up and interest rates became free, they've picked up, and our December is the highest December we've had since 2007. So sales are actually pretty strong. But other areas in the country, like the Kitchener, Guelph, Waterloo area, for example, is up 18%, which is just crazy.
It is.
Um,
But just along that line, my daughter's in Squamish,
mhm.
and it's just booming.
Yeah.
Her sister-in-law is a very successful realtor, and a lot
Mhm.
of it's people who've realized that they don't have to live in the city to work right now.
Yeah. So the suburbs are doing well, and that part makes sense that they're moving out. But
Yes.
yeah, it's the apartments, people don't want to be in high rises and sharing elevators and that kind of thing. So moving out, and
Yeah. So she says that, like, it's just
mhm.
gone crazy out there, and
Mhm.
you know, and I think it's happening. We can live just about anywhere right now, or a lot
Yeah,
of people can, and work
which is
from home.
fantastic. Yeah, as long as there is the jobs, as they some of the stats is something like 30% of businesses are down revenue 30%. So
Yes.
like I think a lot of those things haven't come through, and a lot of the businesses from the first wave have done some financing. They've borrowed against things, and then the second wave hits. So there's some people that are leveraged.
Yes.
So they could be running out of savings, or they could be running into some other issues, and the printing more money can catch up. Like, if you ever seen the movie The Big Short,
Yes.
so same idea. I think it didn't make a lot of sense that there wasn't the collapse going on in states where people had the ninja mortgages, like ninja, no income, no job, no assets,
Yeah.
and they were getting financing, but. Yeah, so it's strange. So I wouldn't have guessed it as strong as it was. So I'm the wrong person to ask right now.
No,
You're
that's
right.
okay. I mean, I think if that's what you see, that's what we want to hear. You
Yeah.
got your finger on the pulse,
Hmm.
and you know,
But right now it's strong, and there's demand, especially in single family houses, and as people are moving there, and the money is free. Like, there's mortgages as low as 1% that you can get right now, which is crazy.
wow. Um, I have a friend, Kenny, who's been in the oil business a long, long time,
Hmm.
and actually we have a friend, um, and he's in our city, in that industry, which we've been a bit of a one horse town for a long time, industry wise, and he thinks this year is going to be a big year, that
Okay.
there's been so little new reserves come on the market. So
Yeah.
the exploration's been way down, and stuff's been drying up,
Right.
uh, and he thinks we could see $100 a barrel
Wow.
this year, and
That'd be good. It's having
yeah.
that pent up demand, and add some optimism. And
Well,
generally, what happens too, and when that happens, it takes a while for the employment to start, and then people to start coming back. And when they come back, generally they'll rent for the first while too before they buy. So it
mhm.
takes a while for the real estate to catch up. It's kind of a slow moving
Yeah, if stuff happened
ship.
this year, you're right, we'd see more of it in next year.
Exactly,
You know,
but at least there's the optimism that starts happening. And
yeah, yeah. He even said next year could be double that. I know that sounds really crazy, but you should give him a call. He's got some,
mhm.
I mean, he's really studied it,
Yeah.
and he knows what the reserves are globally,
Hmm.
knows what that there's still growth happening in use,
Hmm.
how much, uh, and even though there's been a bit of a downturn because of COVID, that's going to come back up,
Right.
and we won't have the reserves. So it's interesting for locally, if
Yeah.
we're looking at what's coming up.
Yeah.
It, if he's
Hmm.
50 or 60% right, that's still
Yeah.
pretty positive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's people that at that level, then people that he's talking to that know what's further down the path for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Ethan Elwins just came on. Do you know Ethan?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. hey, buddy. He said, we were going to go for a walk today, he and I, and we put it off till tomorrow. So,
Right.
and I have we have quite a few people watching us on Facebook, which is kind of fun.
Fantastic.
So any
Thank you.
thoughts? What do you, anything you'd like to share? You know,
Well, the biggest thing is kind of where we started, is like, this is an opportunity for us to dive in. And I'm still a big believer that everything that happens to me happens for me, either to strengthen a weakness I have or teach me a lesson I needed to learn.
yes.
So there's a lot of lessons out there happening for people. And I would say take those lessons in, take them as opportunity. It's like we moved from preschool up to high school up to university in terms of lessons right now, and to step up, it could be an amazing opportunity, just like you were talking about, like it's been your best year. So the best can be in multiple ways.
Yes, and
But
the big lesson for me was that there's no lesson.
there's an ironic statement. The best
I
lesson is there is no lesson.
I know, it's just like, holy shit, where do you go with that? That's a loop for sure. But it was just that, it seems like from if I see everything from the mind, you know, um, and I'm living in the mind, which is judging right and wrong, good and bad. That it's always has an opinion. It's always either in complaint or in gratitude. You know, um, we we I'm always going to be trying to manage the show, and I've just realized, and it took me only 40 years, but it just, and I mean, I'm going back to about mid-20, when I was in my mid-20s, when I consciously started to look, I was looking before, but
Mhm.
but not as consciously in it. And it just has taken forever to realize that I can't reprogram. I have to surrender. And when I'm making assessments about situations, it's always from the mind, and it's always from my programmed mind. So I even if I think something's a lesson, it's me judging a situation, and often I've used that. Well, at least I got the lesson, as a
Mhm.
kind of as a like an excuse in some way to you know or some way to color it, so it wasn't, I didn't recognize that I had been trying to run the show. So
Yeah.
my game, if you will, is to stay out of the road,
Right.
and and to watch, to be the observer on an ongoing basis, to watch, when am
Mhm.
I, uh, to just to continue to be aware. And I remember when Paul taught us this years ago, and I would see, I remember saying, "You mean like all the time?" He would say, "Yeah, be here now, like
Yeah.
always."
Mhm.
Yes, but I wanted to fathom it with the mind, and I realized that you know, with the mind I couldn't see it,
Mhm.
and that in so what I'm watching for now is when I'm not in the moment, when I'm in
Sure.
thought,
Mhm.
and not to do anything other than to come into the moment with awareness. So if fear comes up, or and usually it's more if I'm by myself, the mind starts to spin stories
Mhm.
about whatever, and so to then there's like this observer, the beyond, even there's the observer of the observer, but there's this other entity that's in seems to be in the moment, that says that all of a sudden brings awareness to what's happening. It's like, oh, look at you,
Hmm.
that. Or when fear comes in, it's just like, oh, look, and it sees it, and
Right.
as soon as it's aware, then the fear runs away or
Hmm.
melts, and and also the kind of the trick is to not have any angry energy with fear or with the story or with the complaint or with the judgment, on a personal level, just to acknowledge it, say, oh, look at that,
Yeah.
there he is, and because, with some compassion, I recognize that 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 entity, that being, is probably like a 13-year-old David.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Or it's being generous, probably a lot are locked in at 7.
okay, 7 to
Yeah.
13, and
Yeah.
and scared, you know,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
and 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 uh, and conniving, and
Mhm.
you know, um, so I mean, we've been together in enough situations that you've seen, and that 13 or 10-year-old David, and
Mhm.
yeah, because
Yep.
sometimes he just can come right out, and
Yeah.
yeah, I've struggled a little bit with, um, when we think about Hawkins, you
Mhm.
know, and I mean, there seems to be a long way from living in fear and guilt and shame and anger and desire to, say, living in acceptance, joy, unconditional love. And as we
Mhm.
move up the scale, some amazing, we can have an amazing life at 350, or
Mhm.
or 400 in his scale, you know,
Yeah.
and and mine sometimes likes to say, well, it's not even worth it because there's no way you can't
Yeah.
live it on
Yeah.
conditional love, so just forget it.
We're getting the
And
ego in there, and I'm at 800.
yeah. And
Calibrate me. I'm at 800.
so, but you know what I mean? Ego says,
Yeah.
you can't, so don't even try sometimes. You know what I mean? Or don't
Yeah.
even,
Well,
there
it's
is no
clawing.
trying.
It's like it's clawing back. It's like the crab that doesn't
Yeah.
want a new version of David to pop out because it knows you the way it is and it's trying to protect you.
Yes,
Well, even Hawkins. So you mentioned Ethan is on here. Ethan and I were at Hawkins' last talk in Arizona together, and he had the little teddy bear used to hug. That was his ego, and he would hug it. So it wasn't an evil thing. Wasn't something
wasn't
that
an
he
enemy.
saw.
No. Yes. Yeah.
Wasn't an enemy. Something he hugged. But something came up for me when you're talking about surrendering, and a lot of people, I think, get triggered when you hear the word surrender because it's like giving up, or at the end of a war or whatever, waving the flag and I surrender. One word that I found helpful is joining, or joining with. So it's not actually surrendering and giving up, you're joining with. So it's not surrendering to God, it's joining with God. And it's a very fine difference, but for some people that can make a difference. The small hinges swing big doors sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like that. And of course, with the Enlightenment Intensive with Trevor, um, the realization is that we are that, you know,
Yeah.
and
Well, we're already joined. Yeah, we're already there. Yeah. So
we
it's
are
just
that.
acknowledging that we're joined, that there is no separation. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, so, you know, it's been, for me, this last year, I've kind of, without much thought, started doing a reading every day. In the morning, I do a reading from the 12 step, from a little book that's called 24-Hour Day Book, which is 12-step based. And I give a little talk before the reading. And generally, I don't know what the reading's going to be. I don't even look at it. I just, whatever comes up, I talk about, consciousness or surrender, or letting go of judgment, or position. A lot of us have been, holding, a lot of folks in this world right now are holding a position on right or wrong around politics, or
Mhm.
theories of conspiracy and all that stuff, right? And so I talk about those kind of things, and then I do the reading, and in the beginning, and I started the 1st of May, it was easy. It was like, oh, this is fun, and so it's still fun, but I feel very exposed now. It's like,
Mm.
wow, it's happening every day, and and I'm watching stuff coming up in me around, ego saying, who do you think you are, all of that kind of stuff, and then sometimes just sharing that in the talk, that that this stuff is happening, and of course,
Hmm.
ego doesn't want me to share that, and
Yeah.
whoever me is that's sharing that, and but so that but that doing that has been a catalyst for really, um you know looking at myself, looking at
Sure.
the whole story of you know of David, and it's an everyday thing, so it's not, there's nowhere
Mm.
I'm just doing it,
I
and
love that,
whatever
being a being a catalyst too. I love that, because you are inspiring others to do the same. So with and putting these videos out as well, there's, you never know where the ripples are going to go.
well, yeah, exactly, and I guess, and you're right, and that's not really not my business either.
No, you can't control it. You don't have the expectations, but at the same time,
No.
your vulnerability. I was actually speaking with somebody about this yesterday, and we were talking about Batman, and I like using Batman as one of my uh, uh, heroes to sort of come from, like being the picture Batman on the edge of a building looking out and
So like
standing
an archetype.
proudly, kind of like an archetype, yeah, power
Yeah.
and all that. And we're talking about authenticity and vulnerability, and I said, well, how many people would like to watch Batman, if he didn't show Bruce Wayne and didn't show his faults and his vulnerability and his process that he's going through and all that? Like, not too many people would watch. So that's kind of what you're doing, going through, even as if you're processing and you're working, you haven't got it all figured out. Well, people are relating to you, and people are in that same thing, and people
Uh,
are going to love you that much more by sharing that. So thank you for doing that.
well, thank you, and even letting go whether people like it or love it is part of the process, and it's like,
Mhm.
uh, and sometimes, some days I'll sit down in front of this little camera here, and have no idea, like none of what, you know like no preparation.
Sure.
uh, Actually, this
Wh-
morning was kind of like that. And
Whether they like it or love it, it still affects them. Either
yeah,
way. Just
so
like
I
we were
guess,
talking about the AA meetings or whatever affecting them. Or I did
yeah.
years ago, I did a talk. You're an exhibitor there at the Seed event. I did a talk, dare to do something different, for 2,500 people, and talked about the experience of giving away money downtown and how difficult it was. And part of my talk, I actually did a flash mob for everybody to appreciate, to send a message of love and appreciation or gratitude to two people from their cell phones. So we had 2,500 people sending out two messages. So we had 5,000 messages going out, ripples going out from that one talk.
I remember that talk. I said, I was an exhibitor in the hall, but I also went and listened to your talk.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that talk. That's great.
At the same time, so there's people that were sitting in there, and I even said to them that there's ways, so you can do and act, um, and it affects you and it affects the person that's receiving it. But even watching that act has an effect. So I said to people, even if you didn't participate in there, you're still affected.
Yes.
So whether people like you or not on your video, if they're still there, they're still affected. It's in there. So do the
So
best we can. And
yes, yeah, and I I I think that prayer connects us with the moment,
mm,
and that all power is in the moment. Like Eckhart Tolle said, you
yep.
know, and the power of now, and so I use that, not in a way to some objective, separate entity, some deity, some idea of a God, but that it brings, prayer actually brings me present, brings us into this second. And so often, it's like a tool in a way to take me out of myself into the moment, and be my small s self, as as Dr. Hawkins used to talk about, the small s and the big S. And anyway, so
What
I think
does your prayer look like? Is it gratitude? Is it asking? Is it
it's usually just thy will be done, guide me and strengthen me,
mhm,
show me what you have me to be,
mhm,
um, you know, just guide me and strengthen me is a big prayer of mine, and because I need, for me, I realize I need to get out of the place of thinking I know
mhm, mhm,
what, and just, so those, yeah, thy will be done, thy will be done.
mhm,
It brings me into the moment.
right.
I have prayer around fear, which is right out of my 12-step book, which is, remove my fear, show me what you have me to be, and I use the word God often, but with the word God, I'm really conscious of the fact that it's all inclusive.
Mhm,
It doesn't exclude any particular belief of God either is or he isn't. I think he's either everything or he's nothing.
mhm.
So if he's
It's a shorter
everything,
list what he's not.
pardon me.
It's a shorter list what God isn't.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And I say that to guys sometimes, and new guys in the program, we're talking about God. And I say, well, tell me what God is, where's God not?
Mhm,
And it's usually a conversation stopper. It's like, because it, when, everything it is, was, or ever will be, I think Jesus said is now,
mhm,
and in that teaching. So um, it's a big one because our mind wants to understand.
mhm.
And and um, and our mind wants to understand. I just got a text from Barry Leafers. You remember Barry?
Yep.
Yeah. He said, "You coming?" Question mark. Technology? Question mark. My men's team's tonight. and,
Perfect.
so yeah, and this is all I talk about. So he knows
Yeah.
when. Anyway, so yeah, the mind wants to understand, and it's interesting. And often I'll get into conversations with people about, religious beliefs, and the reason that religion, objectified,
Mhm,
um, the idea of consciousness or the moment or God is because that the mind could then grasp what it was, have something to focus its belief on, and without an objectified version of as long as we didn't make, well, you know what I mean.
mhm. Yeah.
Boy, we've crossed some lines here today. uh, Fun. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'm just thinking if you want to bring a technology or something, just I'm talking about presence and just came up. I can share a quick breath technique that helps to get present. And I remember etch a sketches. Did you ever have those
Yes.
etch a sketches? I sort of equate it to an etch a sketch. How you can take it and turn it upside down and shake it and clear things off.
Yes.
If you want, I can show you a quick one, and you can take it to your team, and it might be a good way to finish off.
Okay.
You have,
Geez,
are
I
you
like that. I just sent Levers a yes text.
okay? So perfect. So you don't need to to move because you'll have to rearrange your camera and stuff. But I can explain normally how you would do it with your posture. So you would stand and just go as if you're standing. You can sit here just for this. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart, your knees slightly bent, and you're hunched over, ready to go into action. And what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in and out as forcefully and as quickly as you can in through your nose only. So in and out through your nose with your mouth closed. Your mouth is closed, but you've got a big smile on your face. And the whole time you're doing it, you're clapping. So you're going to go 20 times in and out as quickly as you can through your nose, as forcefully as you can.
Do you clap on the out or clap on the in?
Just as you're going, just as the speed. And I can demonstrate it first, and then we can do it together and finish off. So after the 20 breaths, you do 5 more claps, and you say, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. So 5 times, I'm ready. So it's a great way to clear things off, and I think a powerful way to end the recording too. And
I'm ready.
If people are watching, do it together, but I can show you first if you want. You want me to show you first so you can demonstrate? Okay.
Yep.
So my knees are bent. I'm here to watch for, I might have some snot boogers come out because it's forceful. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. So that's kind of sends a.
You did 20 breaths?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
In that time. So 20 quick, forceful breaths. In that time, then you do 5. So you're clapping the whole time, then you do 5 more claps. I'm ready, and then as you're clearing, you can use it to help get yourself present, to clear if you're just in a conflict with your spouse or something, and you got another meeting to go in. It's a great palate cleanser. So, ready to try it?
Well, sure. I'm ready to try it. I'm not going to stand up, but
yeah, that's fine. Ready?
Yeah.
Go. I'm ready. I'm ready.
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 I'm ready.
Ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Ready.
I'm ready.
Ready. It brings a smile.
There you go. You might feel kind of silly or whatever you feel, that's fine. But it's you're not thinking of anything else though, right?
No, that's right. Totally here.
Yeah.
Fun. Okay, listen, I'm going to put your, your link and stuff on here, to maybe your YouTube channel and when,
Sure.
and all of that. Okay. Actually,